And, we still have a lot of college football to talk about. We talk college football pretty much every day if we wanted to. But, Shane Beamer's still putting together his players down there. And I've got some, I was looking through the transfer portal, and I was looking at guys that would be interesting to come to South Carolina. And I know that it's all, you never know how things are going to go with some of these young men. The guy that signed yesterday with South Carolina, which I had that information up on my blog page, by the way. The Gamecocks got the leader in the country for sacks yesterday, signing him away from Sean Elliott in Georgia State. So the big question is, who can the Gamecocks get in the transfer portal? Now, bear in mind, Auburn has picked South Carolina dry as far as some of the guys that they've gotten as far as their coaches. Okay? So I look in the transfer portal and I find two guys that theoretically, why would they not want to come to South Carolina? Is the way I look at it. So I've got those two guys. We'll get into that in a moment. Also, I've got this list of non-conference matchups for next season that will get you thinking, man, we just finished up college football, but I'm going to be jacked for these matchups. Okay, so we'll get into that too. But let's start with the transfer portal for the Gamecocks. Now, I don't know where a lot of these guys go, and I'm not going to sit here and pretend that I follow all of these guys on Twitter. I just went and looked up some guys and put two and two together. All right, so these are some players that I think could make it interesting. And if I were Shane Beamer, which, by the way, Shane, if you want to make me a consultant, I'll be happy to do it. I'm not going to work at the football facility, but I will work here at iHeartRadio, and we don't have to tell anybody about it. So there's that. Folks in the chat room already talking about some underrated matchups and talking about Nebraska's top wide receiver hit the transfer portal a couple of days ago. He's not pointed out where he wants to go yet. The young man that you're talking about, though, I've got his name in my other notes. They think that he's going to go to Nebraska or not Nebraska, Kentucky or Purdue. Let's head out to the phones really quick here. Good afternoon. Welcome to the Rundown.
How you doing, Rob? It's Bobby and Casey.
Bobby, what's up, brother?
Hey, the big news of the day, we know it's Urban Meyer going to Jacksonville. But the real interesting thing is, and we could read between the lines. We can read between
hold on,
the lines.
Let me see if I got it. Will he take
Tony
Justin
Elliott?
Fields? Oh, yeah.
Listen, Tony Elliott has turned down the Titans and the Dolphins. Read between the lines. He might be waiting for Urban Meyer to give him the call to coach Trevor Lawrence with the Jaguars. And that was me that was calling before the show and early. I'm really excited. That means the Gamecocks, when they face Clemson, he wouldn't be there. I transfer. I'm a transplantee, and since Miami pretty much plays Clemson every year too, the Dolphins wouldn't have to face a Tony Elliott-led offense neither.
That's a couple of good things, but I posted on my blog yesterday that the Seahawks are in the mix too for Tony Elliott.
So that's the thing. But still, also, what about suddenly the Deshaun Watson trade happens? Now, here's something for an old timer like you. Was Deshaun, because I don't remember, I didn't really follow Clemson that far back. Yeah. Was Tony Elliott his offensive coordinator when Deshaun played?
Tony Elliott's been there a long time. Yeah.
So he was. So he's had two pretty much NFL big primetime quarterbacks. Then Trevor Lawrence, who should be one, and then Deshaun Watson, who's toiling obscurity in Houston, let's just say.
Yeah, that's a good point, man. We're going to get into that, but my thing is going to be about Urban Meyer on the other end, too, and we'll talk about that. But, hey.
All right, Rob. Thank you. Have a good day.
Appreciate it. All right, there's Bobby calling in today. Appreciate him checking in with us. And you're always welcome to do that as well as 803-978-1832. All right, here's my two guys from the transfer portal. The first one is from Auburn. Why? I mean, they took everything except for Zestos from us here in Columbia as far as, hey, we want this at Auburn. So 28 miles from Augusta, Georgia. Anybody know what that is? What's 28 miles from Augusta, Georgia? That would be Thompson, Georgia. Okay? And that is where defensive back Christian Tutt, who played for Auburn but has entered the transfer portal, he declared for the draft, but then changed his course and came back. Guy's a former 4-star prospect, had 31 tackles and a tackle for loss in 2020, and has 3 career interceptions. Now, remember, he was also offered by South Carolina as well. So the idea of coming home, where we're 60 miles from Augusta, he could theoretically be 100 miles from home. That's something that may come into the mix. I'm not saying that I've read the tea leaves. I'm just putting some stuff out there together that can, kind of make some sense. And the second one from Auburn is Big Cat Bryant, the big defensive end. Now, people will say he didn't quite live up to the potential that he had, but the guy was a proven pass rusher in the SEC, total 10 sacks in his 4-year career, 56 career tackles, 11.5 for loss. He is also another Georgia project that he may end up going to play for Kirby Smart. But if I'm Shane Beamer, this guy's wanting to go somewhere else. Hey, why not play against the team that you played against, that you were on before? I like those 2 names as far as guys that could come to South Carolina and maybe do something. The young man Tutt makes the most sense. With the Gamecocks replacing their entire secondary, why not have a guy that's already SEC tested? He's already played in the SEC. He's an SEC caliber player. Have that guy in your secondary for South Carolina. I would definitely be in the mix for them. There are so many quarterbacks that are in the portal as well. Now, I know that there's a big set there that thinks, okay, Luke Doty's going to be the quarterback. And Colin Gauthier, I think is his name. That's the only 2 players on the team that have scholarships as quarterbacks. Okay. Did I say that correctly? The only 2 quarterbacks that have scholarships on the team. There you go. Either way, if I were the Gamecocks, I would be looking into the transfer portal for that as well. Now, I know that there's been some stuff. They've looked at some other guys from some smaller schools, but man, the number of quarterbacks in the portal are absolutely crazy. All right, so if you have someone from the transfer portal you think that will work, give me a call at 803-978-1832. Also, I went through the schedules and I found some interesting games for next week. I think that's how it's spelled. David's asking me if that's how it's spelled online. Please don't try to make me put words together today. Anyway, I'm pretty sure that's how you pronounce his name. Anyway, here we go with some of the big games, the non-conference games for next season. September the 4th, Georgia and Clemson and Charlotte. That is by far the biggest game on the schedule, in my opinion. You're going to have 2 teams that are probably going to be in the top 5. Lighting them up and playing in Charlotte. He says it's pronounced Goche. Okay. Thank you, sir. Other matchups that weekend, Alabama versus Miami in Atlanta. Now, bear in mind, if De'Aaron King is not playing, Alabama wins by 3 touchdowns. You also have LSU versus Florida State. That game is in New Orleans. Also in Atlanta, Ole Miss and Louisville. That might be an interesting game. Boise State, they come down from the turf to play at UCF. This is like a G5 Super Bowl. Brock Lee with the comment of the day in the YouTube chat. You can find the YouTube channel at Carolina Jackpot. There's also the Facebook feed is there for you. Look out for that as well. Anyway, it says that South Carolina missed out on getting Jake Bentley from the transfer portal. Ding, 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 sir. That's funny. So you got Boise State playing at UCF, and that is I'm calling that my G5 Super Bowl. And then Louisiana, led by Billy Napier, playing at Texas. Louisiana may be a top 25 team heading into this matchup. first game of the season for Steve Sarkisian as the new coach at Texas. Wow, that's going to be an interesting game to say the least. The next week, September the 11th, you have Oregon playing at Ohio State. This is like a late summer Rose Bowl, basically. Ohio State, they should still be considered to be one of the better teams in the Big Ten. Oregon, generally one of the better teams in the Pac-12. That's going to be great as well. You also have Texas going on the road to Arkansas. I tell you what, Sam Pittman down at Arkansas, I guarantee you he's got those guys jacked up for this game. And then you have Texas A&M at Colorado. These two teams used to play in the same conference together, if I remember correctly. And they're going to get after it in the second week of the season. September 18th, the headlining matchup, in my opinion, Cincinnati and Indiana. Boy, I tell you what, Cincinnati is one of those G5 teams. If you look at their schedule for next season, they put some meat to it. Now, they're not like a lot of the teams from the SEC who won't schedule home and home games. They're willing to go out and play. So I admire that. I really do. But also, that weekend, Auburn plays at Penn State. Very seldom do you see an SEC team that's willing to go on the road. Auburn and Texas A&M normally do it. Don't ask Alabama to do it. They're not, we don't want nothing to do with that. LSU did it, a year ago when they won the national title where they went on the road to Texas? Don't ask Alabama to do it, though. Nope, we're not doing that. Nick Saban doesn't want to do that. They're going to have to do it later on. And they made all these matchups like 8 years from now when Nick Saban's probably not going to be there. But anyway, that's another fish to fry. Oklahoma at Nebraska. That used to be like the biggest game ever. And Oklahoma State, the Mullet, going on the road to the blue turf, playing at Boise State. Yeah, that's going to be interesting. David's got a good point. LSU has a home and home with Clemson. Basically, I'm picking at Alabama, sir. Alabama wants to schedule all these games at neutral sites. They don't want to. No. You can come to Tuscaloosa, or we may play you at a neutral site if you're a Power 5 team that is hot dog water. We'll do that for you. Cade says, I hate being a South Carolina fan. We never schedule big-time non-conference games. Sir, that's changing. What is it, 5 years from now? South Carolina's in the Chick-fil-A kickoff against Virginia Tech. Yeah, I know Virginia Tech is not very good right now, but you do have the added thing of at least it's a Power 5 opponent, and you're not playing, Alabama Birmingham, your first game of the season. So, yeah, there's something to that. All right, we're going to take a quick break, and we come back. I've got the rest of the games that I'm looking at that I think are going to be really interesting on the non-conference front. We'll have to see how that goes. Actually, I've got those set up. And then we'll talk about the coaching dominoes with Urban Meyer. So we'll get into that. There are other games, too, that South Carolina should entertain. Why not open the season every year playing North Carolina like they did last year? Or was it 2 years ago? I don't like the neutral site game, though. Go back and forth, man. College football games should be played on campus. Seriously. You go to a bowl game and that's at a neutral site, and that's for the fan experience. But schedule the games at home. Do a home and home. You got to make sure that you make sure that you go there in addition to them coming to you. It shouldn't be one-sided. Anyway, we like to have dreams here on the rundown. I've got more matchups, and we'll talk about Urban Meyer possibly going to the Jacksonville Jaguars. There we go. So we'll talk about that and a lot more in just a moment. You're listening to the rundown on Fox Sports Radio 1400. Brock's right about that. If you're taking and you're struggling to get to that sixth win, I can understand that, but I think people go on the Kansas State thing of scheduling where it's like, we're going to do everything we can to make it where if we go 4-4 or 5-3 in conference play, we're going to finish in the top 25 because we're going to finish with 8 wins. Just saying. That's an interesting comment from IDK James. Good point on that, sir. They played Wisconsin up there, didn't they, David? Did you go to that game? That should have been an interesting game too, when you think about it. Well, Cade, on your comment there, you only get better if you play against better people, Just saying. You eventually elevate your game to everybody else, in my opinion. But I'm tired of, there's 1 week in the season. It's generally the week before the rivalry games, the week before rivalry week. That is absolute garbage. What I mean by that is you got a bunch of games where it's, insert SEC or ACC team here versus a letter school, and it's just terrible. It's just terrible. I mean, I can't get into that at all. You're like watching these games. You're like, why am I? And it's worse because I work with our Gamecock coverage across the hall, and we have the mentality of every game is important. You try to put on your best show, but how are we supposed to get excited about an SEC team playing, a team from the SoCon? No disrespect to the SoCon, but South Carolina would schedule like Wofford or Furman or something like that. And, the game's over at the half. And you're just like, this is boring. It's tough to prep for. Really is. All right, here we go. Yeah, Brock, they schedule South Carolina every year. Good point, sir. Welcome back to the Rundown on Fox Sports Radio 1400 around the world on the iHeartRadio app. My name is Rob Sanders. Folks chatting in the chat room over there. You can find that. Look for it on Twitter, by the way, at Rob Sounds Good. Full stream of the show. We leave those up for you. You can check that out whenever you want. Podcast is there too. Appreciate the people who download the podcast. Sometimes I forget, and I may not post it until late. Yeah, that ends up messing up with you there a little bit, and then people will message me, "Where's the podcast, stupid?" All right, so here are the other matchups that I wanted to bring to you. September the 25th, your big matchup that weekend is Wisconsin versus Notre Dame in Chicago. Yes, I know it's a neutral site game, but Wisconsin versus Notre Dame, I'll be watching. I think that will be interesting to do, watch as well. The other matchup I like is Mizzou at Boston College. Why? Because you got 2 second-year coaches. Jeff Hafley, who is more of a defensive coach, against Eli Drinkowitz, who's more of an offensive coach. 2 teams that are trying to get to, let's say, the middle of their division in Mizzou and Boston College. And they're doing a home and home. So Mizzou is going to go to Boston College in the middle of the season. Imagine that. Take notes, Alabama. You can do that too. Anyway, October the 2nd, remember I talked about Cincinnati doing their big thing and how they're scheduling some tough opponents? Cincinnati's going to play at Notre Dame on October the 2nd. Pretty interesting there. And my final one that I will watch probably every snap, Liberty playing at Ole Miss, the Hugh Freeze Bowl. Hugh Freeze will come into that matchup at Liberty, going against a team that is still battling the sanctions, scholarship reductions, and all that. from when he was there a long time ago before he went to Liberty and reformed his life. So there you go. The Hugh Freeze Bowl on November the 6th. That's going to be interesting. All right. If you have a favorite matchup that you've kind of peeked ahead at, we'll take those calls at 803-978-1832. Yes, be pumped for September the 4th. Alabama, Miami, Georgia, Clemson, Florida State, LSU, Ole Miss, Louisville, Boise State at UCF. You want to know the best part about these games? You will not have any opt-outs. You'll not have guys that are thinking, oh, well, I might stub my toe. Therefore, that might hinder my draft stock. I mean, I was going to be a third-round pick anyway. Now I might drop to the middle of the third round. Silly. Crazy with that stuff. Anyway, you have all these guys jacked up to play, and all the games, quote unquote, will mean something. But the other interesting part is that by the end of that Saturday, Georgia, one of these teams is going to have, a lot of these teams are going to have losses. Georgia and Clemson will have a loss. One of them will. Alabama or Miami will have a loss. Same thing with LSU and Florida State. Ole Miss and Louisville. Boise State and UCF. The G5 people will be losing their gourd because before Labor Day, one of their people that carries the torch is going to be out of the mix. Yeah, that's how crazy that is. And Louisiana at Texas. Can you imagine if Billy Napier is able to go in and do what he did to Iowa State, but do it this year to Texas in the first game for Steve Sarkisian? Sarkisian's going to be out at all the rubber chicken dinners over the summer, talking about hook 'em horns and everything else, and then they get popped in the face. That would be interesting anyway. All right, so let's get into the Urban Meyer thing. This guy's going to take over supposedly for the Jacksonville Jaguars. Bobby had his comment earlier about maybe he's going to take Tony Elliott with him, and Tony Elliott could coach Trevor Lawrence. Has anybody stopped to think for a second about the old word that it's the R word, the relationship word? Urban Meyer has a relationship with Justin Fields. There are people that think Justin Fields is the second-ranked quarterback in the class. Do you think that Urban Meyer may say, you know what? I'm going to go with who I know. Yes, everybody and their brother tells me Trevor Lawrence is great. Maybe he wants to go with the guy that he recruited in college. Maybe he wants to go with Justin Fields. That would be an out-of-the-box thing that no one would see coming, but would make a lot of sense. Justin with a good point. Good point. Good luck, Urban Meyer. Yeah. He's going into a gong show program down there, program team. Levon Kirkland, the former Clemson linebacker, joins us on the show sometimes. And he said that the biggest thing that people don't understand is that there's not much of a drop-off from, say, a 4-12 NFL team to a 10-6 NFL team. Obviously, he played in the league. He knows better than I do. But the Jaguars are terrible. I mean, everywhere. There's talk that they want to keep Gardner Minshew to stay and possibly mentor Trevor Lawrence there. Trevor Lawrence might teach Gardner Minshew something. Minshew is terrible. I do like they had like a little combo back receiver. Robinson, I think was his name. He has the ability to do some stuff. And that's another great point by James there. Shad Khan has already said, of course, the owner, that he has full roster control for now. Yeah, well, if you had full roster control before, you put together a terrible team. I don't know if I'm trusting the fact that you know what you're doing anyway. To me, it's a no-brainer to take Trevor Lawrence because you need a quarterback. And everybody and their brother says that's the best one. You might as well go with who the experts say is great. But what if Urban Meyer can get in his ear a little bit and says, man, look at how tough this Justin Fields is. messed up thumb, whatever. That's going to be interesting too. So we'll keep an eye on that. And the thought of Tony Elliott going to Jacksonville. I wrote on my blog yesterday that there's reports from reporters out in Seattle that he may be in the mix to take over for Brian Schottenheimer, who was shown the door. Maybe Tony Elliott wants to go out there and, write the game plan for Russell Wilson. I don't know. Or maybe Tony Elliott's sitting up in his house in the upstate laughing. I'm not going to any of these places. You never know. Does he want to make the move to the NFL? Yeah, we'll have to follow that. Up next, we're going to bring on Tyler Crowder. He's the host of Kicking It with Crowder, right down in the heart of Georgia. He has his finger on the pulse for Auburn and Georgia. We'll get his comments on the offensive coordinator for South Carolina heading down there. Do they want to have, South Carolina West, but instead of have Brian Harsin taking over the role of Will Muschamp? I don't know. That's the way it looks. We'll talk to him about that, and we'll talk about some of the NFL playoff games this weekend. Maybe Tyler will tell us a good idea about who you should bet on. We'll get into that in a moment. You're listening to The Rundown here on Fox Sports Radio 1400. I'm Rob Sanders. I'm on Twitter at RobSoundsGood. More of The Rundown when we come back. Dirty Preacher Man has no soul, Brock. You know that as well as I do.
This is Dan Patrick. Here's what's trending on iHeart Sports Network, presented by Mercedes-Benz Vans. Hornets forward Gordon Hayward is day-to-day with a hip injury suffered in last night's loss to Dallas. He'll be a game-time decision for tonight's contest against the Raptors. The NBA's blockbuster deal is officially done now, with all-star guard James Harden going from Houston to Brooklyn. Cleveland Cavs and the Indiana Pacers were also involved. And it's game day for the Hurricanes. They're set to open their season. They'll do that tonight in Detroit. I'm Scott Davidson. Go the extra mile in your very own upfitted Mercedes-Benz Sprinter van. You could win in Fox Sports Radio's Ultimate Tailgate Rig Sweepstakes. To enter and get official rules, visit danpatrick.com by January 24th. Mercedes-Benz Vans. A crown in your hand. With your share of over $450,000. Listen to win weekdays between 7 a.m. and 10 p.m. on Fox Sports Radio 1400.
Welcome back to The Rundown on Fox Sports Radio 1400. Around the world on the iHeart Radio app. Thanks for joining us today. I want to welcome to the phone. Welcome on the phone. My friend. We're friends, right, Tyler? We can call each other friends, right?
For sure.
There you go. Tyler Crowder, my buddy down in Georgia. You kind of got your fingers on the pulse for Alabama and Georgia. Auburn and Georgia. What were your thoughts on Auburn basically cherry picking and getting a bunch of guys from the South Carolina staff? And how's that going over with the fans down there?
Well, I think it was smart by Harsin to actually get a couple guys who have ties to the SEC. Now, so maybe the way he went about it, getting some guys off that staff that, kind of stole from Beamer, maybe wasn't the right way to do it, especially since, South Carolina did beat Auburn this year as well. That's another thing to think about. But Bobo, I think that was a good hire to get, just because of the way he can recruit in the state of Georgia and also Auburn area. That west. The east side of Alabama, west side of Georgia, right there. So I also think getting Derek Mason, wasn't able to get a lot of wins at Vanderbilt, but has a lot of respect in the SEC. So he's coming from Boise State, so he's not probably used to going to these houses down here. So now he has a bunch of guys who are. So we'll see how it works out. But also, he's got 2 South Carolina players too that have transferred. Well, no, those guys went to Florida State. Okay, never mind. But South Carolina did get the transfer from Georgia State yesterday, who led the league, who led the nation in sacks. So that was a pretty big get for Beamer as well.
Well, speaking of people that are in the transfer portal, there's a couple of Auburn players that are there. Christian Tutt, the defensive back who is from Thompson, Georgia, about 30 miles from Augusta. Tell us a little bit about what you remember about his time at Auburn. I mean, he's an SEC caliber cornerback. Maybe he wants to come home. He could be basically 100 miles from home if he comes to Columbia.
Yeah, I definitely know the name a little bit. I know the Thompson program is a really good program. Like I said, he's got SEC experience. You can't. I'm not sure how many snaps he's played. Probably close to I don't know, 500 to 1,000 snaps at least, maybe even more than that. I know in the transfer portal, sometimes they tell you how many snaps they've played and stuff. But, it's just always good to get guys who have that experience going against SEC competition, especially if you're going to be going to another SEC school. So I can't remember how highly rated he was. He was probably like a 3 or 4 star coming out of high school. So
he was a 4-star guy.
4-star guy. So if you could add a 4-star guy to the roster, I mean, I know you have lost the defensive back that transferred to Florida State, who had a lot of starting experience. So maybe they can get him over to Columbia. But I'm really not. I don't know too much about the guy. I can't sit here and say that I do, but I know I've watched him play. I know the name. But he's an SEC player, SEC caliber talent, 4-star guy, like you said. So adding him to a South Carolina roster couldn't hurt, that's for sure.
Well, and one of the guys that is the bigger name, though, is Big Cat Bryant. He was highly touted and heading to Auburn, and he's in the transfer portal. Of course, he could be 200 miles from home as well. I don't think that matters as much with him, but he has to go somewhere where he can shine, because he's only got 1 year to play. I mean, you got any inkling about where this guy may go?
Yeah, now I do know a lot more about him. He was highly talented coming out. He's from like a school, a smaller school in Georgia that had also produced some other guys. Another guy who went to Auburn, Montravius Adams. I think they went to the same high school.
Right.
So Big Cat Bryant, I mean, he's one of the, like you said, he's one of the top guys. I mean, he could have went pro this year if he really wanted to. So he's probably going to be the biggest name out on the defensive line. I think it's all about connections. I know that a couple Georgia fans, not saying he's going to go to Georgia, but a lot of Georgia fans are hoping he could maybe pick Georgia. I'm sure the folks down in Columbia would love to add his talent. I mean, he's a big guy. I think he's 6'5", 260, somewhere around there.
Big
can really get after the quarterback, and those guys just don't grow on trees. So, I'm excited to see where he does go. That was kind of shocking to me when I actually read his little, good farewell goodbye on Twitter. I thought he was announcing that he was coming back to Auburn. I guess I didn't read the whole thing through. And then later on, I get the notification that he's transferring. So I had to go back and read it. And yeah, the very last sentence, he says he just thinks he should take his talent somewhere else. So it was kind of shocking. I thought it was one of those things where he said, "Hey, I'm coming back." But at the very end, he said, "No, I'm leaving." So that was kind of unique in a sense. But I think a couple of teams could use. I mean, I'm sure a lot of teams are going to be after him. I think staying in the SEC would be smart for him, especially if he's able to go out and have, a 12 to 14 sack season next year. That could really help his draft stock, because I mean he's probably going to be a high round, top 3 round pick next year in the NFL draft, most likely.
Yeah, it's gonna be interesting.
And South Carolina could use the production, that's for sure.
Yeah, well, I mean the Gamecocks are at ground zero right now. I mean they need to get some athletes to come in here, with a lot of folks transferring and coaches moving along and everything else. So why not? I mean, yeah. Hitting the transfer portal is important, I think, for South Carolina this year, just so they can jump off to a good start in their first season with Shane Beamer. All right, so let's talk a little bit about the rumors that Jacksonville is going to take and make Urban Meyer a head coach. You know, is that a guy you want running your pro team? For me, it's a no. And I know that everybody's like, man, he did this, he did that. Yeah, he did that on the college level. I mean, you don't go to the pros to retire, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, we're going to have – I mean, how long is he going to coach? I mean, this guy's already had health issues earlier on at Florida, then kind of had the kind of scandal at Ohio State and decided to step down as well, you know, got suspended 3 games. And then if he's healthy, I honestly think it's a good move. A lot of people are I saw Daniel Jeremiah, the NFL Network guy, compare it to kind of Jimmy Johnson going from the Miami Hurricanes to the Dallas Cowboys. That was kind of funny to me. I like that comparison. The only reason is because he has so much draft capital. He has so much cap space down there in Jacksonville. So, you know, he's most likely going to get Trevor Lawrence. So, boom, he's got his quarterback. Most people think Trevor Lawrence will pan out and have a great NFL career. So, boom, he's got the quarterback. Robinson, he's got Robinson, the running back this year, who had a 1,000-yard season, 10 touchdowns or so. So they got the running back. And if they're able to draft, they're able to scout. I wonder who the GM will be. I'm not sure if they've hired a GM, or will Urban Meyer have a say on the roster. You know, if I'm a coach, I always want to have a say in the roster. You know, it's like Bill Parcells said, you can't let me cook dinner but not go out and pick the groceries. So, I mean, I feel like, you know, if you're able to coach and you're able to do these things at the college level, you know, NFL is a different animal. Let's just go ahead and say it. A lot of people did not had success going from college to the NFL. Nick Saban being one of them. I think he had a 500 record with Miami. There's also been a lot of other coaches who have made that jump. But I think Urban Meyer will be successful. I just love the way he talks about football. The guy knows football, but you have to have that in the back of your head. You know, how long is he going to be there? You know, is he going to be there 3 years? Is he going to be there 5 years? Can he be there a decade? It's just it's something to look out for. And Jacksonville needs a winner, that's for sure. I mean, they're starving for a winner down there. This is a team that's coming off an AFC championship like 3 years ago. I mean, it's unreal how far they have fallen. So Tom Coughlin, that's something to watch out for, how him and Urban Meyer are able to construct this roster. But with a lot of cap space and, you know, the number 1 pick coming in the draft, I mean, that's a good job. I mean, that may be one of the best jobs in the NFL right now, starting over. So we'll see what he does. He's been a winner at every stop he's been at. So we'll see if he can get Jacksonville to the playoffs the next few years.
We'll have to see on that. It's all about managing egos when you get to the NFL, because there's talent everywhere. So, you know, it's an issue of, can you get these guys that are making more money than you are to actually do what you want them to do? That's kind of the big thing.
Exactly.
My final question for Tyler Crowder this afternoon, host of Kicking It with Crowder. Do you think that he may go with the relationship pick and take Justin Fields instead of Trevor Lawrence?
Honestly, I do not. I do not think he's going to do that, especially after watching Justin Fields kind of struggle against the Alabama defense in the national championship. I know he was hurt, but he had a big game against Clemson. But Urban Meyer actually did not coach Justin Fields. Now, he does have that Ohio State connection, but Ryan Day was the head coach the last 2 years when Justin Fields was there.
They have the relationship, though. So,
they definitely know each other. I know that, and I think Urban Meyer may have actually got Justin Fields to there before he, you know, left and everything, but he just never coached him. But he definitely has a relationship with him. But Trevor Lawrence, I mean, a guy that isn't the number 1 overall pick for 3 years and then just doesn't go number 1. I just don't think that happens. I think his skill set is so unique. He can make every throw in the book. He's got so much. He's got 36 stars. He's played in over 40 games. Played in 3 playoff games. I mean, the guy is a good player. That loss versus Ohio State really wasn't on Trevor Lawrence. I mean, the Clemson defense didn't play very well. I mean, yeah, he made a few mistakes here and there, but I think this is an Andrew Luck, a John Elway type quarterback coming out of the draft. I mean, it'd be crazy for them to pass up on Trevor Lawrence based on a relationship with Justin Fields. But if someone offers them a bunch, if they offer them a boatload of picks and maybe some players, possibly if they could move back a couple spots, then grab Justin Fields, I would maybe see that going. But if they stay at number one, I do surely see them selecting Trevor Lawrence, the quarterback from Clemson, because he's a great talent, and I think he's going to do really well at the NFL level. I think his game translates pretty easily. And then I'm really excited to see that number 5 for Clemson next year, DJ. I'm not even going to try to pronounce his last name, but I'm really excited to see what he can bring this Clemson offense next year. He's a mix between like Cam Newton and Matt Stafford for me. Like, the guy is just amazing, and he may end up winning a Heisman Trophy, something Trevor Lawrence wasn't able to do. So I'm really excited to see what he can do and to start his era down in Clemson.
Tyler Crowder, host of Kicking It with Crowder. You can find his show on the iHeartRadio app, on iTunes, all over the place. And, of course, follow him on Twitter. You're going to have out your NFL picks for the weekend, right? We should have them up shortly, wouldn't you think?
Yeah. I actually made the picks last night on my show. I just haven't put them out on Twitter. But yeah, my picks will be out very shortly. I'll have my straight up picks and my against the spread picks. NFL last week, boy, the against the spread picks were so tough. The line is so close with these NFL games, but I did go 4-2 on the straight up picks last week. So we'll see what happens this weekend. But yeah, I think it's going to be a great weekend of football with these 8 teams left that are down to play. So yeah, check that out on Twitter, guys. I'll be posting those shortly.
That's at Kicking It with Crow on Twitter. At Kicking It with Crow.
Yeah.
Check out his Twitter picks there, and he will. Maybe if you want to make some money, you might want to roll with Tyler just a little bit. Just saying. All right, Tyler. Hey man, thanks for joining us on the rundown, buddy. We appreciate it.
Hey, thanks for having me, Rob.
There you go. Tyler Crowder, host of Kicking It with Crowder. Appreciate him joining us on the show. We're going to wrap up this edition of the rundown. When we come back, you are listening to Fox Sports Radio 1400. Oh man, Texas A&M fan, you're funny, brother. You take up for Texas A&M regardless, man. I think Texas A&M fan would tell us that they're the best at tiddlywinks. Let's see here. That's funny. I really think the Gamecocks can get this Christian Tutt guy. Was offered by South Carolina, not far from home. Why not? What's up, KG and Tom? I seen you said what's up earlier. How you guys doing? I really think Christian Tutt could do it. I don't know. Why? He could go to either. If he goes to South Carolina, he's going to start. I mean, simple as that. The Gamecocks need help in the secondary big time, and he will have the opportunity to start huge and get huge playing time. Yeah, every day, 3 o'clock there, KG. 3 o'clock to 4. We do the rundown here. So, yeah, I'm on Everyday Live. Tomorrow, I'm going to have on my buddy Will Pelagic. We're going to break down some of the NFL games. So, I do it live every day right at 3 o'clock. There you go, James. Everybody transferred, man. Rumor on the street is that Travian Robertson told those guys, or a lot of guys, hey, transfer out of here. That's a rumor on the street. I don't know if it's true or not. But you guys are thinking I'm just running my mouth about this, but the culture that was down there at South Carolina was terrible. I mean, not good at all. So there's that anyway. Final segment of the rundown this afternoon here on Fox Sports Radio 1400 around the world on the iHeartRadio app. I'm Rob Sanders. Thanks for checking us out. Rick asked, what time am I on in Alabama? Oh, Rick, you're great. Anyway, some breaking news. 4 Alabama stars have declared for the NFL draft. This just coming down. Mac Jones, the headliner, completed over 77% of his passes, 4,500 yards, Heisman Trophy finalist. Jalen Waddle, who returned from a broken ankle, is also heading to the draft. On the defensive side of the ball, cornerback Patrick Surtain II and defensive lineman Christian Barmore have announced that they will head into the NFL draft. So there you go. 4 players from Alabama. You know what that means, right? The spotlight in Alabama now turns to the young man, what is it, Bryce Young at quarterback. 803-978-1832, 803-978-1832 is the number to call if you'd like to join us here on the rundown on Fox Sports Radio 1400, of course, around the world on the iHeartRadio app. The hatred for Mike Bobo, you can feel it over here in the chat room. Lots of people are hating Mike Bobo right now. It's kind of funny. You know, if you go to some of the, if you find any articles on Bobo, everything is, Bobo's an honest guy. Bobo's great. And Bobo did this and Bobo did that. Yeah, none of those were written by anybody that was here in Columbia because the fan base hates him. The South Carolina fan base is like, no, on the Bobo. Don't want anything to do with that. All right, tomorrow, full NFL breakdown. I have to put aside my homerness because I am an avid Green Bay Packers fan. I expect us to win it all, and that's not exactly fair to the listeners of the show. So I will bring on my buddy. I'm working to get him on the show, Will Pelagic, to talk about the NFL games. So we're going to have that as we get set up for a weekend of NFL action. And, of course, we do have South Carolina basketball this weekend. They play on the road at LSU. Hopefully, COVID permitting, that happens. Let's head out to the phones. Good afternoon. Welcome into the rundown.
Hey, I was calling. I've called before, James. I was calling about Mike Bobo. I'm a Clemson alum, but
yeah,
I kind of wonder. I live in Alabama now.
Yeah.
I kind of wonder, like, what Auburn saw in him, because saw basically zero production out of his offenses.
Well, I mean, now he did have some good numbers when he was at Georgia, but when he went to Colorado State, they had 1 year where they were pretty good, and then they were pretty terrible. And then he comes to South Carolina, and they were, I think they finished 8th overall, which was a beacon for a Will Muschamp coach team. But I don't see it either. Maybe Auburn's got something that they see that I don't know.
Honestly, I wondered if Auburn's just relegated himself to mediocrity unless
this is my other thing
one
too.
Championship every now and then.
And I've talked about this too. Bo Nix is a guy that wants to run around in the pocket and move around and stuff like that. Mike Bobo doesn't like that type of quarterback. He wants the guy that is the pro-style quarterback, stay in the pocket and throw the ball. He doesn't have that with Bo Nix. I bet down the line, Bo Nix may transfer. I really think that's going to happen.
Oh, yeah, and they're looking at bringing in probably that Gunnar Stockton who decommitted.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, it could be him too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, hey, man.
All right, man.
I appreciate you calling in, buddy. I enjoy you. I hope you enjoy the show today. Thanks so much.
All right, thank you.
There you go. All right. Tom says all his homies hate Mike Bobo. Thanks for that. Mike Bobo would do terrible in a fan poll around here. I mean, I think Clemson fans don't like him for the way that he did. Seriously. But, Tracy Rocker, the way that he allegedly left, wow. How do you get behind that? I don't know. All right, we're going to break down the NFL tomorrow and whatever else comes our way. We're going to keep our eye on the transfer portal. I'm doing my best. Anything that I hear from, I've got several friends that are all over the place that follow a lot of these SEC schools. Anything that I hear, I'm going to post on my blog page at foxsportsradio1400.com. As soon as I've got it, I'm going to put it out there. I'll also tweet it out at Rob Sounds Good. By the way, keeping track of everything Clemson on the vast Clemson Sports Talk Radio Network, heard everywhere on the planet, is my buddy Lawton Swan. He'll be up with Clemson Sports Talk momentarily. He's at home right now. He's jacked up on Red Bull and bubble gum. He has taken the Mr. Clean and shined his head, and he is ready for you in about 5 minutes here with Clemson Sports Talk. My name is Rob Sanders. Thanks for joining me here on The Rundown. We will talk with you tomorrow. All right. Appreciate you guys, man. We'll talk to you guys tomorrow, 3 o'clock. Thanks so much.